Good morning. I'm not going to do it. This is the Fire Stop Podcast Network, the #1 channel where first responders and law enforcement go to be informed and entertained 5 days a week. Today, bringing you political news, staying on the up and up, staying true to what we know. C- students at best doing journalism the last 2.5 years. We're getting really daggone good at it because we got some follow-up stories from last week that maybe, I don't know if you want to call them Tanstradamus predictions or just last call predictions, but it's all starting to, the pieces are all starting to come together as we said they would. And now you're seeing the bigger picture. And I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Today we are covering the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange. Free at last. If you want to go back and listen to my Julian Assange breakdowns, we've done a few on here, but I will recap Julian Assange and the breakdowns and what is so notable about his release and the timing, which is it's going to lead to more last call predictions, Tanstradamus predictions, if you will. We have to dive into that. Also, we have the Americans predicting what's going to happen tomorrow from the debate, if it's even going to happen on the debate tomorrow, but it's going to be huge. We're going to be doing some live commentary. CNN, though, putting a little shutdown, a little little First Amendment type scare situation where they're like, you are not allowed to commentate on our debate because we have rigged this debate and we've rigged it in someone's favor, and we will not have any YouTubers doing commentary. Elon Musk spouting out saying, yeah, no, everybody's going to do it. There's nothing you can do about it. And there's case law. So we'll talk about that. And then we have this strange story that I love about these. Well, I don't love the story because I feel there's a panic and anxiety inside of me about this story that I'd love to talk about. How about that? But these NASA astronauts are marooned on the space station, and it's a lot worse than you think, or that we're being led to believe. And I would absolutely be losing my mind. Couple other stories. What else do we got out there, Josh?
There's a dam break in Midwestern Minnesota, a lot of water that's coming around there, and then more water issues with Idaho. We can go ahead and take a victory lap. They are bringing back the curtailment, and all those water issues are no longer water issues.
Oh, so the water issues that we covered last week, I think we were like they were the first of our kind to deliver that news. So I'd like to say that it was us that got all the Idaho farmers water back. You're welcome. Thank you to Failure Stop Podcast. I'm just kidding. I know we're not that important, but it'd be nice to think. But it is cool that we covered this. Nobody else was really covering it, but it was as big as we thought it was going to be, and it did break free. And you know, this is all attributed to Julian Assange. Came full circle just now in the intro. We came full circle with that. Take it away.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
Sunday. This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. Welcome to the Feather Stop Podcast channel. Growing, gone. Nico the Greco in the live chats. Michael Hendricks, Mur530. Folk around, find out. Armory Knight says, I'm here. Michael Hendricks says, why is Josh cursing? I don't know. It's too early for him to be cursing. I agree with you. Naishkin, our Swedish friend David J. Brennan from Central Florida, always throwing down, says he's trying to throw off the feds. Biden 2024. Love it. All right, guys. Well, hey, love you guys being in the live chats. Thank you guys so much for making this show great. A lot of big things coming this summer, and it's all because of you. It's all because of the super chats, the paid memberships, the paid you guys have paid for an awesome one-shop all podcast palooza website. First of its kind. I'm not trying to like hype up myself, but I'm not trying to sound like Donald Trump or anything, but literally there isn't another website in a podcast genre like the website we're about to launch. We're working really hard on it, spending a couple thousands of dollars on this thing, and leaving no stone unturned. Hopefully that launches this summer, but we got new podcasts out there such as Two Cops, One Donut, who has Kyle Rittenhouse on this week. We've got Anti-Hero podcast, which is just slaying out there. We've got a big giant October 18th meetup with some very, very special guests. I might have said one of those special guests' name in these comments, so that would be really cool. We also have Donut Shop podcast on the network now, Failure to Stop, which brings you 5 different shows a week, and lots going on the network, and that's all because of you guys. So, and it's to inform and entertain first responders so they don't have to listen to the radio. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, honest to God. Thank you. Big show today. Have I ever started the show, Josh, with like, hey, small show today, guys? Small show. Is always a big show?
No, and when we're trying to think of like the titles and the descriptions and what we're going to cover, it's hard to not sound hyperbolic when we're talking about things, when this is such a big not a crazy, it's such a big deal of what Julian, like, it throws such a wrench into things. Him being free on Monday, the debates on Thursday, is that connected? Is that planned? And why now? Why after all of this time? And then, not to get too far ahead of things, but he's keeping kind of quiet about it, not saying too much. There's a lot that's been put out there, but then there's not a whole lot that's been put out there. It's kind of eerie. It's one of those weird things that we were talking about last night. Like, how do we get to the debate, or where do we go from here? Or how does Russia attack us because we got the subs hanging off the coast of Miami? Does something happen in Ukraine? Do we have something happen with Israel? I mean, what does Canada decide that they just want to take over Seattle? I mean, what's craziness? I mean,
let me know in the chat. Do you guys have a feeling, a sense of like shit's about to hit the fan? I had I was in the car for almost 10 hours yesterday. My kids had a shoot for their their YouTube series called Rad Kids Club. So if you've got kids, it's a new YouTube series. Production company is called Birdhouse Media has picked them up and is really making a go at this. And they're pitching them to other networks like the Outdoor Network and things like that. So there's a lot of big things in the works. If you got kids, you want to do that. But anyway, I'm driving all over God's creation doing these video shoots. Yesterday, they went to like some kind of like wakeboard park, or they learned how to wakeboard, and then they had to jump on these jumpy things. There was like an obstacle course on the water. It was really cool. And at the end of the day, they gave my kids wakeboards, bindings, and boots. It was insane. But they went skateboarding first. Yeah, play that. Go ahead and play that really fast. It ties into the news. There you go. This is some of the wakeboarding from the other episode. Again, it's Rad Kids Club. If you guys are just listening, I'm sorry. Sometimes I like to brag about my kids, but really good quality content here, getting kids inspired to get outdoors. But anyway, I was on the road for 5 hours, and I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and everything, trying to study for today's show, listening to every podcast under the sun when it comes to like Julian Assange cases and everything. I've always been fascinated with Julian Assange since I got into podcasting. So I always like going back down the Julian Assange rabbit hole. But even my son, my 11-year-old son, was like, hey, Dad, do you think I'll make it to my 20th birthday? And I was like, what? That's dark. And he's like, do you think the world will still be around? And I was like, yo, you need to put your earplugs back in, your headphones, listen to your MP3 player, stop listening to my podcast. But yeah, man, it's like, if you really know the totality of what's going on, it is a little dark, grim. But here's what I say. Knowing is half the battle. You have to know these things. You have to be prepared for these things. But I want to know in the chats, do you guys feel like there's something like in the air? I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on. How long is it going to go? How long is it going to go? Hold on. But let me know.
We were just at war with Iraq and Afghanistan for the last 20 years, and we didn't talk about the draft once. Not once. 3,000 people were killed on U.S. soil. We didn't talk about the draft. Not once. Not once. We did all of that, and all of the billions of dollars that we've sent to Ukraine, all the billions of dollars that we've sent to Israel and for aid and things. And we had not nearly the same amount of support, or not nearly the same amount of, I don't know that I call it support, just momentum and push to just go in one direction. Like last week, like we were talking about what I thought was going to be a huge story of like we found where $15 million were coming from, but that's pennies in the bank of $600 million that we found from this one $40 billion aid package that went to someplace else that has nothing to do with the US. So like I would say the writing's on the wall, but it just seems like writing's on the wall, like something, it feels like something major, something big is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know how to shake the feeling or how to put my finger on the pulse of what it is, but it's just
I've
like, never felt like this before.
We all feel like that. I feel like there's just this like like you said, it's weird. It's almost like spiritual, like a dark force about us. But Julian Assange in the late 80s, was one of the very original OG computer internet hackers, and hacked NASA because NASA was sending a plutonium-based rocket, a nuclear rocket, to Jupiter with, what was it, like 500 pounds of 50 pounds of plutonium, something like that. But anyway, on this 5-ton rocket. And this was just coming off the heels of the explosion of the Challenger. And now in the 1989, they were about to send up a rocket powered by nuclear capabilities. And if you remember K-19, like in the 60s, and then Chernobyl, and then, like all these like nuclear meltdowns were like a big thing. And Julian Assange decided that because NASA didn't tell the world that they were about to send a rocket if it had a meltdown, if something went wrong, if a Challenger type explosion happened on this rocket, it would affect us globally. And he spilled the beans on that in 1989. And it was so bad that NASA ended up, like, their whole computers got hacked, and there was protesters, and then it just kind of went through there. All through the 90s, he was he was talking about the military industrial complex and trying to expose Bush and all the wars and everything. And then he became the most wanted man in the world because he became famous because he found offshore accounts in the Caymans in the early 2000s. And he broke this news free of, look how much millions and billions of dollars are going through these banks, and who they're going through and where they're going. And there's no taxes being paid, and nobody has any accountability for it. And then all of a sudden they take his servers down, and everybody in the world wants Julian Assange. Now, we look back at that now and know that a lot of that has to do with the Epstein Island stuff. This isn't a theory. This isn't wackadoodle things. This is real deal shit. And then he goes to Iceland, finds out that the Icelanders release all these like bank loans for billions of dollars, and then they go bankrupt. The bank does, knowing that they were going to go bankrupt, gives out as much money as they possibly can, and then does like a no kind of like a oops, we're out of business and you can't hold us responsible for it, but everybody's already got their money and nobody knows where that money came from, and everybody has to bail them out. And so even in Iceland, it changed their government. If you go to what Julian Assange did in the African elections, 800 people were killed because he exposed Kenyan, I think it was Kenyan, African, like, again, they were funneling $2 billion of, oh my goodness, my computer's about to die. Hang on. They were funneling a bunch of money through, and so then they had to rig an election. Now this, I don't remember what year this was, but it was like 2008, maybe something like that. But anyway, he exposes this 100 days before the election. He shows that that current president of the time had been funneling like $2 billion into all these offshore accounts and had built these massive homes and yachts. And all the Kenyans were like, what? And so they go and start protesting. Ends up the government, the police officers, the police state, open fire on the crowd of protesters, killing like 800 of them. They rig and throw the election, even though everybody I want to say, can you look that up? Julian Assange, Kenya. I believe this was in Kenya, but I might be wrong on that. And I don't want to be wrong on that. I mean, the meat of the story is true, but I would hate to keep saying Kenya if it wasn't Kenya.
Protesters storm Kenya's parliament.
Yeah,
Julian Assange freed after plea deal.
Was Kenya. It's been a long time since I went down these rabbit holes, guys. So Kenya, they end up rigging the election. like 80 days later. And everybody knows that this guy did not win the election. Wow. Geez. That sounds
history repeats itself.
Sounds like history's repeating itself. And so this guy gets in, but they expose him even more. And so, Julian Assange, whether you like the facts that he brought, especially, I remember hating Julian Assange while I was in the military because he was exposing what the military was doing. And I thought at the time what the military was doing was right. Like, he's the one that broke all the news about Guantanamo Bay. But when you go back and you look at it objectively and not through the lens of a 23-year-old war fighter who just doesn't want anybody to question what I'm doing over there. But if I look at it now in my 40s, what Julian Assange exposed was a document, a real life document. This wasn't made up, that talked about waterboarding, and it talked about scaring these people with dogs. It talked about all the things that they were doing that are morally and ethically not right in Guantanamo Bay. At the time, I was like, fuck the terrorists. They need to be tortured. But we weren't just torturing a couple of terrorists. We were torturing to see if they even were terrorists. And a lot of these people happen not to be, or some of them. And then Julian Assange exposed the Apache incident, where the Apache pilot kills 2 journalists and a child and a couple other people, along with some terrorists, and then is overheard saying, well, they shouldn't have been there with the terrorists. The problem was that the American government, had basically barred Al Jazeera from covering anything in the Fallujah news because they killed like 600 women and children in the first week of Fallujah. They were also committing other things that were like they kicked the media, all the things that we got mad at Russia for doing in Crimea, getting the media out, what the Ukrainians, like all of these things that we call him a war criminal for. And America literally did that. And Julian Assange exposed it in the early 2000s. And now do I think that the Apache pilot killed all those people and should go to jail? No, I don't think he should go to jail for it. But the American public needed to know that the 2 people killed in there were journalists, and our government tried to cover that up at the time. And Julian Assange is the one that broke the video on WikiLeaks. By the way, WikiLeaks comes from like Wikipedia leaks. And Julian Assange wasn't making any money. He was living on people's couches, but what he was doing was exposing with real facts, with real documents, real crimes that were being committed. And I don't mean this in the way that I think the crimes should be. Like again, war is hell. But I think the real crime here is that America tried to cover that up. If you're going to commit war crimes, if you're going to kill 600 women and children in your first week of Fallujah, in the way that you did it, then own it when you get caught doing it. Don't be like these other countries that lie about it and there's no accountability. Again, I don't think that we should be putting these guys in the gallows and hanging them, but maybe they lose their position of power. Maybe the general that's in charge of this, maybe the intel officers that are in charge of this get demoted. Something like that. Again, war is hell, and shitty things have to happen in war to win. And I don't think you should have to be punished by death for a lot of those things. Now, if it's unreasonable, like if you just targeted women and children, I have no problem you going to the gallows. But if you're like, look, there's women and children, we've told them to get the fuck out, they didn't get the fuck out, we're throwing missiles that way, oh shit, that's not a military target, that was a school. Okay, well, who didn't know that was in school, and whose responsibility was it? Fire them. You know what I mean? Demote them, send them to somewhere else, send them like to the Navy, or like put them on a submarine or something, that sucks. Like, don't let them have a great job. My point here, though, is that Julian Assange was an independent journalist that used real receipts and years of hacking and what he called ethical hacking. I think there was another word for it.
Because the question that people are going to go, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Is the hacking of something wrong? Technically, if you're going to go, we're going to say speakings, yeah, that's wrong. But is going to war with an entire country for 20 years based off of something that wasn't there, is that also wrong?
Right.
What's wrong? What's one of the 2 wrongs is the more wrong? Like, one wrong, you killed hundreds, if not thousands, if not, millions of people over the, past 20 years. The other one, we exposed that the justification to get there wasn't there. And that's the problem.
He
That's
exposed
where
the industrial military complex. I mean, I don't think we would even have the word industrial military industrial military complex in our
vocabulary.
In our vocabulary, had it not been for Julian Assange. And what he exposed is real. Again, I hated Julian Assange so much when I was younger that I'm having to admit to you right now that I was wrong. I'm not even going to say I think I was wrong. I'm going to tell you I was wrong about Julian Assange. I don't like the conclusions that Julian Assange and his people came up with. I don't agree with hanging people or like these hyperbolic, exaggerated punishments, because I don't think that Julian Assange really understands war. Now, for the people in the industrial military complex that started the war, that's different than the people who are fighting the war. Let me make that clear. What I'm saying to you, what I'm trying to say to you is that when you have generals that aren't, or captains, lieutenant colonels that aren't in the upper echelons that are trying to carry out what they think is their duty, right? Like 20-year-old me in Afghanistan thinking that I'm saving these people from the Taliban, everything I did was in good faith. And I would have no problem urinating on I didn't do this. I did not do this, but I would have no problem urinating on a dead Taliban soldier. 20-year-old me probably would, if everybody else was doing it, I probably would have been on like decapitating folks if that came about. Like if my friends were like, dude, let's cut the fucking head off of this dude, put it on a spike and stick it here for all the other Taliban, I would have been the guy that been like, yeah, okay, I'm down, dude. Like, let's be savages. I'm fine with that. I want to win this war. And if it's by scaring the Taliban, I'm for those kinds of things. Those guys shouldn't be held as war criminals or exposed, because that's like, those are decisions you're making in the fog of war.
They're a hammer looking for nails.
Now you should get in trouble for it. You could get in trouble for it, but I don't know if going to jail and prison and all that shit is,
to an extent, because you guys, we're a hammer looking for nails, and the generals, your intel people, your guys that are the officers that are back in the head shed, and they're the ones making those decisions. They're saying, hey, that's the building that you guys are going to go level, or that's what you guys are going to go. These 8 people over here, that you got cleared to engage those on the Apache pilot. Yeah, you go ahead. Somebody else is making those decisions that are giving you the green light for this stuff. And then other people are actually executing, and actually executing is the wrong word. That's just what we use in the military, but they're following through with these orders. They're doing this stuff based off of intel and information that is bunk from the get-go, because it goes back to politicians that they're just funneling money through these countries to come back to go to their pockets. They're going to have and say, oh, we're doing this for this righteous thing, for this war. We're doing this to bring these people. We're trying to save this group of people. We're trying to do, when they're not doing any of that. They're taking all of the eyes that putting on the things that they are doing. They want to get them off, and they want to put, hey, look at all this stuff that we're doing. That's great. But don't look at all of this things over here that we're doing, that we're not money laundering. We're not killing these people. We're not saying that this is a target when it's not really a target. Like, those are the people that need to be held accountable. The people that need to be held accountable are your S1 shops, your generals, your people that are going, yeah, that's who they're okaying these raids, they're signing off, but they're not the ones being held accountable. The people that are actually out on the raids, the people who are actually out on these missions, the Apache pilots, they're the ones that are being in the news. It's not the ones that are given the green light. The ones that are given the green light, instead of getting held accountable for what they're doing, they get out and they become a senator, or they get out and become a contractor with Northrop Grumman, or they get out and work for Halliburton.
Well, yeah, and a lot of these guys, they know the inside, they know the inside information, and they know the totality of what they're about to do. Nico the Greco in the chat says, I think we try to tell people to get out in 2004. It was definitely the Wild Wild West. After contractors were killed, Fallujah was messed up back then, no doubt. Like, Fallujah was a train wreck. Here's what Julian Assange, this is where I agree with Julian Assange and I disagree with Julian Assange, Nico. The United States kicked Al Jazeera media and other media, almost all media, out of Fallujah. Julian Assange exposed that. They were trying to hide it from the U.S. that this was going on. I disagree with that, right? We have a right to know Maybe we do, maybe we don't. War is hell. I get it. And I'm trying to articulate what I feel, and what I say can be misinterpreted, and that scares me. I don't want to be misinterpreted here.
If we had cameras during World War II and World War I, we'd be talking about mustard gas. We'd be talking about, things like that we don't want to have.
We leveled entire cities with everybody in it.
We wouldn't be talking about that. So
soldiers murdered there were tons of people that got literally murdered, and I'm okay with it too. Shit happens. War is a shitty place. Don't put, if you're going to put me there against my will, especially in a draft sitch or something like that, and I go crazy, is that my fault or is that your fault? I would have just been a farmer and I wouldn't have been killing prisoners, but you put me in this fucking shitty position. Now, if you signed up for it, then that's another story. But here we go. Let me say this. The American government kicked the media out so the media couldn't document what was going on. And then you kill 400 or 600 civilians in the first week, and then you lie about it, and then you get caught lying about it. All Julian Assange did was expose that. Now, Blackwater guys got rolled up, their bodies got dragged through the city, hung from the bridge. It's terrible. Let's go after Fallujah. I'm fine with all of it, but then the Americans lied about what they were doing, and they got caught lying. Then they doubled down on the lie, and then they tried to punish Julian Assange for exposing the lie. Here's the thing. Just explain why 600 civilians died. Don't hold on the heels that it didn't happen. Don't lie about it happening. And when somebody catches you lying, don't punish the guy who caught you lying. That's crazy to me. Then don't lie. Listen, you don't want to have a media there so they don't see what's going on. Great. Tell the American public, we're not allowed media there because we don't want you to see what's about to happen in this fucking place. It's fucked up what happened. It's fucked up what we got to do. You guys aren't going to understand it, but we're not allowing the media in there. Period. Oh, but we just caught you waxing and hitting this target and that target. And sorry guys, we told you war was hell. We told you this sucks. We didn't mean to hit that target. We hit that target. We're going to pay $200 million to rebuild this when it's all said and done. Instead, no, they say, no comment. We didn't do that. Oh, and by the way, arrest that man for exposing us. That's bullshit.
Don't hold us accountable for the things that we did that you have the receipts for, and the body bags are stacked in the back of a truck. Don't hold us accountable for that. Look at what this guy did. He put the flashlight on all the stuff that we were doing. Let's go after the guy with the flashlight. How about this? How about don't get caught? How about don't leak video footage in your own? Because by the way, an American soldier leaked the video of the Apache member who killed the two journalists. The journalists went missing. The American government put out that they were missing, that the journalists were missing. They did not know. They said they had, they couldn't account for those two missing journalists. Then all of a sudden, this soldier's like, wait a minute, those two journalists, we killed them. Our Apache pilot fucking killed them. I have the tape. He leaks the tape, an American soldier, or she. I don't know if that was Chelsea, whatever her name was, or not. That crazy dude, bitch, Chelsea Manning, dude that became a girl. Was it a dude that became a girl, right? Yeah.
Anyway, fucking mental problems. I don't remember if it was Chelsea Manning that released that tape or not, but either way, then the tape is released. It's undeniable. It's not fake. It's totally real. And then instead of just owning it, punishing the Apache pilot for his fuck up. And again, I'm not saying throw him in jail or execute him or do anything like this, but dude definitely doesn't need to be flying ops in Iraq for a little while. Maybe take a year or two off and do some retraining or what you would do with cops. Well, no, not bad. Not as bad as what you would do with cops. But instead of doing that, they make the whole operation classified. Oh, no. That was all classified. No, bitch, you fucking killed two journalists. You killed two journalists. It was on accident. It didn't mean to happen. But because it makes us all distrust everything. And now everything that's going on now, with the FBI and the FBI covering for Biden, with the FBI documents that they just released where they put the page holders over it, which I thought was so ridiculous that I defended the FBI a few weeks ago where I was like, in search warrants sometimes, because it's so unreasonable for me to think that FBI agents would do something that corrupt But then you got to remind, like, go back and see what they did with the Julian Assange case. Like, go back with what they did with these Apache pilots and all these other cases. So at the end of the day, I don't like the conclusion of, like, you know, they're war criminals and the Apache pilots should be, you know, thrown in jail and in prison. War is hell. But I do think that the American government should have, you know, I think the journalist families, they earn the right to know, like, hey, you guys fucking killed them. Look, if you're the American general or whatever, why not just say, listen, if you're a combat journalist and you get in the car with terrorists, if you're a child, if I go on a terrorist rampage and I throw my family in the car, I have to know that my family's probably going to die in the throes of it. If Killdozer put his whole family in the Killdozer, he'd have to know that his family's going to die. And Killdozer, the ranch, what was that? The
Granby, Colorado.
Yeah,
for Killdozer.
No, what was the ranch? The guy that we covered that story.
Oh, I could see it.
And his family dies and everything, whatever. That was in Idaho. But you know, you take that responsibility. But at the same time, the government could say, look, yes, we did blow up that convoy. Yes, there were 2 journalists in it. Yeah, Ruby Ridge. Thank you, Ruby
Ridge. There we go.
Yes, there were some journalists in it. Oops. Like, how about not? But instead, they're like, nope, that's classified. No, bitch, it's not classified. We saw the videotape of your Apache pilot being savage as fuck. And listen, when you kill people for a living, like these Apache pilots did, huge respect to Apache pilots. They've killed, a lot of them have killed, especially GWAT Apache pilots killed more people than cancer. You've got to have this savage mentality. I'm fine with it. And then the shit gets out on the radio. It sucks. I hate it for you. Be better. But am I throwing you in jail? No. So again, I don't agree with the conclusions of what Julian Assange came to. But I can't deny the fact that what Julian Assange presented were actual real facts, and it was some of the best journalism we have ever seen in our history. So here's the other thing. Julian Assange was never rich. Julian Assange never made a lot of money. Julian Assange smelled bad, was socially retarded, had so many issues, and every spy from every company, Iceland, the Caymans, America, Australia, the UK was after him, maybe worse than anyone. Germany. Everybody wanted Julian Assange's head. He lived a life of hiding for a volunteer website. Excuse me. For a website that he did not get paid for, that was donation based. He did it just because it was his moral and ethical obligation. Just like my moral and obligation is to defend police and to be a voice when police don't have one. His moral and ethical obligation was to use his hacker skills, his unethical skill, to bring down some of the most unethical and disgusting people. I'm fully convinced that Julian Assange and his people were QAnon. I am fully convinced that Julian Assange did expose Hillary Clinton and all of those gates that we don't talk about because you'll get defunded. And that's the reason why Hillary Clinton said, isn't there just a way that we can go in there and put a Tomahawk missile on him or whatever? What was it that she said? Something like
drone strike him.
Drone strike Julian Assange. I mean, even Hillary Clinton, because that's Hillary Clinton's always, that's her go-to every time. Like, how do we just disappear this guy?
But that's the acceptable go-to, is to disappear a journalist. Because the further thing is what he exposed is, like, with this Apache incident specifically, if you had good intel to begin with, then they would be able to, the generals, the intel people that gave the green light for that would be able to get up on the same stage that they gave the green light from and get on that same microphone and say, you know what? This is the intel that we had. This is where we got it from. This is why we did this. This is what we had, an informant from this. And obviously that informant gave us bad information. We're following up on that. We're reaching out to the families of the journalists involved. Because if you're going out there and you're doing things for the right reasons, you have no problem going out there, because sometimes war is hell, just like the cop work that we do. Cop work is hell. There are going to be times when we are going to have all of the correct information and we're still going to get it wrong. It's going to happen. But what we do when that happens, that tells everything about us. If you go around and go to double down on, no, we didn't do that, and no, that didn't happen, and no, then it sows question into. They say that the fruit of the poisonous tree, or when you poison one well and poison the well, and like the problem with that is you can't trust anything. If one apple has come out of that thing and it's been poisoned, you can't trust that the next one's not going to be poisoned. You can't trust that the next information that they're coming out is going to be information that is going to be true. So we're going into these countries. We're going into Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. We're going into Afghanistan because they're supporting ISIS. We're giving funding to Ukraine because they're helping fund Ukraine to help, fight back against, like Julian Assange showed that there's no real reason for us to be doing any of that.
Right.
That's what his thing was. And his thing was to show they have to have a reason. We're going to put something on the plate, and then we're going to send our military out there to take care of the plate.
I mean, from his first exposure of NASA sending up a nuclear-based reactor rocket, and we know how many rockets go bad, don't you think the world and the public world deserves to know that you guys are exploring Jupiter at the at the gamble of risking? You're going all in. Essentially what you had there was NASA thinking that they had two aces. This is a perfect time to go all in. But what if the guy with 7 deuce hits a full house? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if? Do you really want to gamble globally, the world as we know it, on your two aces going up to space? And shouldn't we, the people, know that you're doing that? And that was his first real exposure. And and I think a lot of the things that he was exposing with the banks is, and here's the thing, nobody gave a fuck when he exposed Kenya. Nobody gave a fuck when he exposed NASA. I mean, they were like, oh, this is not good. But it wasn't until he started exposing these billionaires that are using Cayman Island offshore bank accounts to funnel tons of money. Then he started exposing the industrial military complex. That's when they start pulling the servers and going in all in after Julian Assange. I wanted to get to this point right here. War is hell. There are legitimate crimes that happen, and it's worth investigating. The problem with that, Murph 530, is that we don't just investigate these crimes. We get bureaucratic red tape around it, and they make the biggest deal out of the smallest thing to make examples, or so that some JAG officer can have the case of the century. And so they're super hyperbolic about it, and they take one very small incident. Now, you could argue that this isn't a small incident, that they killed 2 journalists and a child in an airstrike, but it's one of those things where you do the investigation. CID says, okay, you have this intel. The intel is bad. Then who are you going to go punish? The intel guys? And then the intel guys are like, dude, we had an informant on the ground. And then you're like, okay, well then are we going to go punish the informant that we don't even know who that informant is? At the end of the day, there's nobody to be punished. But I think it would be worth getting rid of all that bureaucratic red tape, doing a minor investigation without being hyperbolic about it, and then putting those facts out there. Hey guys, we got bad intel from a bad source. Well, who's your source? Well, he's an Iraqi that we pay. And he told us that this thing was moving here. And he never mentioned that there was a journalist. I think the American public can wrap their heads around that. I mean, shit, that's a great lie, even if you wanted to lie about it and just say that that's the story. But instead of just saying classified, sorry, not going to tell you guys anything, throws up too many red flags. But you know what's not a red flag? GhostBed at ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Those are sleep so good, it's absolutely scary. I want my generals, I want my Julian Assanges, I want everybody sleeping on a ghost bed, because when you have a good night's rest, you're able to make better life decisions. And you feel better. If you think that all this news is doom and gloom, you definitely need a ghost bed, because it's going to make you think clearly and get it all off your chest. Talk to crazy people like us on Instagram and social medias about it. I know one thing, I'm doing all of these sports, jiu-jitsu. I wakeboarded all day yesterday with my kids. I'm stiff, I'm sore. I'm going to jiu-jitsu in about 25 minutes. Laying on my ghost bed massage topper is absolutely paramount. It's become, as Joe Rogan's ice bath is a Joe Rogan, my massage topper is to Eric Tansey. You want to get hard, you don't have to get cold to get hard. That's my
Joe
David
Rogan.
Goggins. impersonation. No, you don't have to get in the cold water. You don't got to go run a bunch of. Just lay on a ghost bed topper. I'm telling you, you feel like a new person, a new human being. Gets all those endorphins. I don't know if I'm not speaking from medical experience here, but I'm telling you, is there is some kind of biological chemical change when you lay on a ghost bed. I don't know if it's the way it massages it cracks your back for you. I don't know. I'm obsessed with getting I always talk about that. When something pops in my back, Jits does that for me too as well. But this massage topper, it like inflates like in your shoulder blades while the other one deflates. So you contorts you all the way up until like, you're like, oh God, my shoulder's going to come out. And then it goes, and you're like, oh, that was amazing. Thank you, Ghost Bed. Anyway, love Ghost Bed. I can't talk about them enough. Get a good night's sleep. Get the Ghost Bed pillow. My kids traveled. I dropped them off at a campground last night, 10 o'clock at night. I didn't get home until 2 a.m, by the way. But I dropped them off. They're camping for the next 4 days. And they each brought their Ghost Bed pillows. But they're coming home on a train. And the people they're camping with are like, dude, they can't go back on the train with pillows. And my kids were like, I'm not sleeping. I'm already camping. It's 112-degree high this week. This is all going to suck for the next 3 days. I'm not sucking without my Ghost Bed pillow. I just told the people, like, fuck it. Like, I mean, I guess if you have to ditch the pillow, I'll buy new ones. I'm not rich like that, but it's that important. I understand where they're coming from. I'm not sleeping anywhere without my Ghost Bed pillow. It's like like a lot of people are addicted to Monster Energy drinks or Bangs or some shit like that. I'm just a coffee guy myself, but I'm like that with my Ghost Bed pillow. Like, I'm not good. I'm not in a good place without my Ghost Bed pillow. Also, if you're going to make good decisions, you got to eat right. Factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. 50% off, meal planning to the next level. You got to be a good meal planner. You want to get lean and mean. 4th of July is like 2 weeks away. Go now, start now, get in shape so you can eat those hot dogs and not feel shamed about it. Head over to Factor Meals, start meal planning today. I got a sweet bio from one of you guys, from Miss Liz. She said she's the most picky eater on the planet. Factor Meals send her a bunch of meals and she just doesn't eat half the meals because she's so picky, right? Like, I don't eat green beans type deal, right? Like, I like the chicken, but I don't like the green beans, or I like the green beans, I don't like. And she said, either way, I had to cancel my subscription because I just don't eat all of the food. I can't each meal. I'm not that person. And we all know people like that. She said, but then they sent me another free box and a thank you for your subscription. And thank you for like doing the surveys and all this stuff. And they sent her a free box of food. She called them and was like, yo, I canceled my man. They're like, yeah, this was just a thank you. Like, we're not charging you for it. Just, I hope you guys like what's in the meal. And she said, like, Ghost Bed level customer service. We don't go all in with sponsors. Like, I stopped doing these nickel and dime sponsors that I get complaints from. I'm not going to field complaints from you guys. I'm not going to do it. Like, if you're complaining about one of our sponsors, I then take it upon myself. I can't sleep at night. I call the sponsors and I'm not going to do it. And that's why I would rather go with bigger sponsors for a longer period of time than nickel and dime a whole bunch of sponsors and probably make more money. But you guys don't reach out to these bigger companies and they reach out back to you. So what you do is you reach out to me. I'm in the weeds with responding to you guys' messages from all the 5 shows. So like, we've got thousands of people who love true crime. We got a couple thousand that like the society and culture news, and it's a different thousands for each show. Mm-hmm. It's like we're somewhere around like 60,000 a month at this point. You know, some weeks 100,000 across the network. We're like 300,000 a month,
350 or something like that.
350,000 a month. All of these messages come through all of our various social media platforms. I'm in the weeds, dude. I can't keep up with you guys. So I love having Factor Meals and Ghost Bed where they have such great customer service. I don't have to worry about it. Also, the products are amazing. I love Factor Meals. I live by them, swear by them. I've done the protein heavy. These are chef prepared, fresh, never frozen meals. I've done the protein heavy. I've done all of them, guys. The shakes, God, the shakes, so easy, so good, so healthy, so hydrating, so many vitamins, everything. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 and get you 50% off today. Factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. All right, let's finish the show off. Let me finish this with Julian Assange. Okay. They've released him. He's after, God, how many years has it been?
5.
Yeah.
The most recent one. 5.
I mean, he was in that Ecuador
I think
solitary
it's like
confinement.
15 or somewhere
Yeah.
between 15 and 17 years total.
But now they've released him, and they've released him on the Monday before this epic debate that's coming. This epic debate that we're going to cover tomorrow. This debate that they said they're cutting the microphones off at 3 minutes. This debate that they have rigged so far one way, it's insane. The moderator here, his husband, is one of the 51 that signed their seal of approval that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russia misinformation. So that's your moderator there. Her husband, she is a known absolute Trump hater, but she's the moderator, right? Let's not find somebody that's even close to being bipartisan or neutral in any way, type or form. Let's find somebody that's just batshit crazy, has done batshit crazy things, and whose husband is one of the 51 signed guarantors that the Russia collusion, misinformation, disinformation laptop thing was real, which we know is 100% fake, that the laptop was 100% real. So again, everything is rigged in Trump's. So now on top of that, CNN has unprecedentedly reached out across the board to Tim Pool, to
Breaking Points,
all of these big political podcasts, and they have said you cannot and you will not do political commentary during the debates. We will sue you. Well, Elon Musk jumps in and says, no, you won't, because they are allowed to use, it's called fair use market, and it's of the president's. Like, it literally could change like our democracy. You can't do it. CNN's doubling down on it. Now it looks like CNN has reworded some of the laws that says, like, well, you can use the commentary, but you have to post our embedded YouTube code on your thing. And so very strange, but it's all being set up to make Biden look good. Now, everybody in the political commentary, including Breaking Points, which is extremely liberal and left, has said this is the worst idea that the left has ever come up with, to let Biden do this debate, because we all know that he can't do it. And at least he can't do it without drugs. So there's going to be that. There's just so many things going on. One, they tried to call Biden out this week on the lies of this 9% inflation. It was not 9%. There's tons of proof that it's 9%. And then they cut the microphone of the reporter that was like, you keep saying this. We all know it's not true. Like, we have the data that shows that it's not true. And then even, the United States economic spokesperson would not say. She just kept saying, she kept doing the Jean-Pierre Luc Picard thing, where she was like, well, I mean, what he's accounting for is the inflation that would have come, that did come from COVID. It just didn't come until 16 months later in his presidency, but it was all from, and they were like, no, President Biden keeps telling everybody that when he took office, inflation was at 9%. That's just factually not true. And they already cut those mics. So that's not going to be up for debate, right? If they're cutting that mic now this early. So there's just a lot going on with this debate. And so there's a lot to speculate here. And this is where Josh and I have been having fun. What is the point of letting him? What is the point of letting him debate? Is it that they want to watch him fail, and so that they can get Biden out and put somebody like Gavin Newsom in? Is it, do they have something under their sleeve that they're going to reveal to the public? What made them want to do this after being so intent on not doing it? What makes them now want to do it?
Not only that, you've got Robert Kennedy Jr. that's not being allowed to be there. They said these are they set the requirements to be a presidential candidate for this, and he meets and exceeds the requirements that CNN set out for this debate, because I guess CNN gets to be the people that set the tone for the United States government, even though they're a media company and they're propaganda company more than anything. But they say this is the have to meet X, Y, and Z, and Robert Kennedy goes, all right, here's X, Y, and Z, and they go, well, the two of the polls that you said that we're going to use, we're not going to allow those polls. So you only got 3 of the 5 that we're going to allow. And then the next day or later on that afternoon, one of the polls that they didn't allow, they're going to start allowing. So he's still like, you're not going to allow him. So from the American people's point of view, whether you are a Biden or a Trump or a Kennedy, it doesn't matter what side of the fence or which team you're going to, the CNN has said there's only two choices.
Yeah.
So how are you able to say that you are elected of the people when there are no people there? There are no people in the audience. The people are saying they want to potentially hear what Kennedy has to say. They're not going to let him have a voice. Not only that, we're gonna cut the mics off, and we're gonna have the moderator has ties to this intel stuff. Like, tell me where this doesn't seem like it's a setup. Tell me where you like.
Yeah, I think this is a good move for Trump, though. Like, I know it's a setup. Like, I get it's a setup. I think Trump wins this no matter what. So let me ask you this, Josh. You don't think Trump wins this debate?
Oh, no, he does. But what they're going to do is they're looking for talking points. They're looking for stuff that they're going to be able to take all this next week. This is what this convicted felon has to say about this topic. He's a convicted felon, but he's going to talk to you about border security. He's a convicted felon, but he's going to talk to you about war crimes. He's a convicted felon, but they're going to talk to you about being able to take care of the economy. They got the talking points, because what we didn't hear is the Supreme Court last week after we came off the air. They came out and reaffirmed what we already knew, that to be guilty of a crime in the United States, you have to have a unanimous jury decision, that even if one person can't come on board, that it's a hung trial and you got to go through it all over again. So the whole conviction of him in the first place, that's going to go thrown out on appeal. But they have their talking points. So I think the likelihood of them not having it happen, there's going to be something big's going to have to happen. There's going to have to be.
I mean, at this point, it'd have to be like a nuclear attack from Russia, which I think is funny that Russia just happens to be sitting off the coast of Florida in Havana, Cuba, right now this week, and That's why I say, there's just like a feeling in the air that like something's going to happen today, tomorrow, that's going to take our minds off of the debate tomorrow night. So we're going to do, Armory Knight brings up a funny point here. Like, we kind of touched on it, but he says CNN is going to try to shut down anyone that streams their debate, and YouTube is threatening a suspension of all accounts. Yeah, we covered it. Tim Pool Tim Pool and those guys are all ahead of this. They've already, Elon Musk has shared the law, and this is the way the law is written. Of course, anybody's allowed to do it. Rumble's not going to take anybody down for doing it. We are going to stream. Should we just do this on Rumble and be done with it?
We could do it. Yeah, we could. We could do it there. We could do it. And I could see if we can, I'll try to get it linked this afternoon. We could do it to Rumble and then try to do it to Rumble and Patreon too.
Okay, that's it. We'll do it on Rumble and Patreon. We won't do it on YouTube then. Fuck them.
Yeah.
But we're doing it tomorrow. We're doing it tomorrow. Yeah. We're gonna have some special guests, I think, in the house, if we can get everybody on the phone. It's going to be hard to get all of our political commentators. This is the biggest night. So, and we're not like a sole political podcast, but we put the feelers out, and I think there's a couple guys that want to come on. So we're going to try to do it. And we'll be streaming on Patreon, and we'll be streaming on Rumble tomorrow. No YouTubes for that. But everybody else will be doing it on YouTube. I think YouTube, I think the kind of conservative thing is like, get fucked YouTube at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Like, does something happen today? Do we have like a crazy earthquake or something? I don't know. It's something to look forward to. But tune in tomorrow, 8:45 ish, 8:30 ish. We'll put it out tomorrow. Rumble and Patreon. Hope to see you guys over there. And that'll be 8. We'll probably do like 8:40 Eastern Standard Time, right? Is that the debate?
8:45, 8:50 is when we'll go live, and then the debate starts at 9 is when it's scheduled to go live.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start like 8:45. So you guys start flowing over into now, can we live on Patreon?
Yeah, we can. We just don't have it set up. I'll work on that this afternoon.
Right. Yeah, work on that this afternoon. That'll be fun. So if you're not a part of our Patreon, all that money at $3, less than a cup of coffee a month, that $3 goes to supporting like the new website and supporting all the other extra cool stuff that we're going to be doing with all these other podcasts on Patreon, which is, when the website gets launched, you're going to be able to log into the website, and it's going to give you access to everybody's shit. Like one big major Discord, one major Patreon, all that stuff. So it's going to be great. Thank you guys for all of that. So anyway, let me go over the next story really fast. We got to breeze through these. NASA astronauts are marooned. Boeing is under so much heat right now and pressure, and they can't get these astronauts home. So they're fucking stuck on the space station.
It's even worse than that. So they took the capsule up there and it's docked. They were only supposed to be up there for 5 days. They've been up there for 20 days so far. This capsule has had 4 helium leaks and 5 thruster failures, and this is the lifeboat that's supposed to bring them back to Earth. They said, quote, severe mechanical failures and severe mechanical issues are what causing these issues. So there's talk about having SpaceX send their capsule up and pick them up and then bring them back to Earth on a SpaceX capsule because they don't have the reliability of this Boeing capsule. This whole program is a year behind, and it's $1.5 billion over budget. Another Boeing program that's just not hitting their marks. And in this time, instead of having citizens aboard an airplane and parts of it flying off, you have astronauts literally marooned, stuck in space because of this. Dude, now
Boeing just can't take a W, can they? They're just L after L after L.
No, their CEO did a really good getting dragged over the coals in front of the Senate this week or last week, because I think it was a 43% increase in his or the amount of money that he gets, and there's like 1% across the board for the rest of his employees. So the head shed is definitely getting paid, but the people downstairs, the ones that are turning the wrenches, they're getting tired of this shit and they're not turning the wrenches anymore, and stuff's falling off airplanes and space capsules and stuff like that. I haven't flown in a long time just because it's more of a hassle for me to fly than it is for me to try to go drive across the country. But if I was flying right now, I'd be looking to see if what kind of plane I'm flying on, to see if that was something that I feel safe being aboard. I don't know. We got that. You want to hit this other one here from Minnesota real quick?
Yeah.
So just west of Minnesota, and it's west central Minnesota, you've got a dam.
Wait. Can I do the breaking news?
2 people are dead after severe storms and major flooding hit the Midwest. According to officials, the dam in Midwest Minnesota was built in the early 1900s, is at a risk of failing. And I'm going to show you a picture. That's what they say is a risk of failure. And I'll go ahead and say, yeah, by the technicalities, the dam still works, but the everything around it is not doing good.
That is crazy. If you're just listening, it's you go look at these pictures of this Minnesota dam break. I mean, it's literally made the river,
diverted it
400 meters wider than it's supposed to be. Like the river said, "Oh, damn you! I'm just going to make my own way around you." And I'm going to. By the way, Eric Watson in the chats here. Thank you for noticing how dapper my mullet is. Thank you, sir. I always appreciate that. I don't need a super chat to interrupt you on that. Anytime somebody talks about how nice my mullet is, I will always interrupt. And I appreciate you, Eric Watson. Let me get a couple other shit. Oh, okay. So yeah, with this dam break, the dam break. I mean, is that like an infrastructure issue? Is that
we've got these issues all across because here's where
bridge is collapsing. We had that terrorist attack on a bridge. We got dams falling apart.
And normally we would say, hey, we take some of our money that we've been paying in taxes into the government that we could use for like FEMA or disaster relief and things like that. The entire city of Lahaina burns down, you get $700. But if you're in another country, we're going to give you billions of dollars. And I don't know how much money is going to go to this community, but they're not waving that yellow and gold flag. So I don't think that's going to be nearly as much as Ukraine has got over the last couple of years. But
yeah, and you know, that's what's Neichkin says. He's sending $27 for mullet funds. So, or 27 Sikh, whatever the fuck a Sikh is. We've done that math before, but it's Swedish money. Minnesota Natty G was activated. Or the National Guard was activated for that flooding. Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy. The infrastructure, the the dam break. I mean, it's super sad, and our hearts and prayers go out to them. But in the wake of Idaho losing their water so that we can have more cobalt mining for Ukraine, funds for armament, and all the while Putin signs this epic deal with North Korea, who has one of the biggest stockpiles of ammunition in the world globally. I think a lot of people know that, but North Korea has so much ammo and so many rifles and weapons that they have joined forces with Russia, and they are supplying Russia now with ammo and some weaponry, which is a very, very, very big, serious deal, because that means Russia can pretty much indefinitely. I mean, what it means is that Russia is getting ready to use a shit ton of ammo, and for what? And we know that Putin, 3 or 4 days ago, in one of his speeches, talked about how dangerous America is to Russia right now, and that they have killed 2 of their civilians by these American-owned rockets that left Ukraine into Russia. And that's escalating very quickly, and American propaganda is just not talking about it. And again, I thought all this was going to come out before this debate, so they didn't have to have a debate. We'll see what happens today. But if not, this debate's going to be epic tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely out of control. I'm really excited. I've got some studying to do. We need to write some questions, Josh, and we need to get our fact checking ready for tomorrow so that we can fact check real time. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So please, if you don't have a Rumble account, get you a Rumble account. If you're not on our Patreon, get our Patreon. Support us so that we can do these things. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Deadleg Media, myself, John Bates might be on. Kiefer is going to be on from the Dominican Republic, and we might have conservative Anthony on. Red Pill Threads might be coming on. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun. And I don't want to miss this debate for anything. So like John Bates said, that he still plays reruns of the debate with Trump versus Hillary. And I think Trump is just going to annihilate Biden in this one. So I think it's going to be another one for the ages. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow from everybody here at Failure Stop Podcast channel and network. Guns up. Giddy up.